And then popping, everything firm, nothing ain't dropping on you. All the big heads them.
Very colourful style, Mr. Parmesan. Very enjoyable. And just before the commercial break, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Wendell Constantine, a past performer and 12 and under teen talent. You know with Father Allen, aren't you?
At the Catholic Communication
Yes.
Studios, yes. I'm his recording engineer there.
And you're also involved in a forthcoming production, Aguinaldo.
Aguinaldo 84.
Holiday Inn.
That's right, it's on Holiday Inn. If you're not doing anything this Sunday, you can come on down to the Holiday Inn Ballroom at 6:45 p.m. when we have a fabulous concert in store for you featuring the group moods of the Holiday Inn, Daniel Newflowers, the Goretti Group, 3 Tons of Fun, Sandra Hamilton, and talent from 12 and under as well. So it promises to be an exciting concert, and all proceeds are going to the seminary under the distinguished patronage of His Grace Archbishop Anthony Panton. Tickets are priced, as you can see, at $20, and if you're in town tomorrow, you can check at Pizza Hut of West Mall or Rhino's Record Shop at Prince Street, and on Sunday at the Holiday Inn in the lobby. Hope to see you there.
Oh, you're a smooth one, baby. You're smooth, you know. I almost did not make it to the studio today. And I said, you know, Wendell Constantine can take over from me at any point in time.
I'll
Thank
try.
you, Wendell.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Wendell.
darling. Thank you. We're live. We're updated. For the second prize.
We just threw you guys back quite a bit there. We went back to Auntie Hazel, 12 and under days, and Wendell Constantine
Good morning.
has gotten the nod of approval to take over from Auntie Hazel for 12 and under.
Would you believe? Good morning.
Good morning to you,
Good
Mr.
morning.
Constantine.
Good
Welcome.
morning. Good morning, Jiron. Good morning, Ainka. Good morning, Natalie. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Behind that camera, good morning, Sayo. Because way back
Before you work here, I
when
work
this
here.
little toddler came into the studio,
Saya was there.
Sayo was here. He's actually in the position where the children who were performing on 12 and under used to be, and you were seated where the piano used to be.
Nice.
And Natalie is standing in Auntie Hazel's X, which is the marker spot. She's seated where Auntie Hazel used to stand.
That's what I'm
Nice.
saying. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know.
It explains a lot. I have the music and she here to
But
talk
there
to
you
you.
go.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So history
Yeah.
repeats itself. So always appreciate, which was a lesson from Auntie Hazel, right? You are only here for a
At
time.
time. Make it count.
Make a difference. That's all. Very
Amen.
simple. Regardless of whether you're upstairs in control room B, downstairs in the new control room A, or you're in the new master control. Good morning to you, sir, for those who are across there. Regardless of where you are, make a difference.
Difference.
Big up.
I totally agree. I totally agree. So, Wendell, let me just put you in the hot seat. When you came in this morning and you saw how we interacted, how we started the show, how do you feel about that compared to what used to be before?
Okay, so what used to be were the foundations of broadcasting. What exists today wants to follow in its footsteps, but has not taken the time to understand its origin. I would say it another way. Michael Jackson sat in this studio. The Mighty Sparrows sat in this studio. What's the difference between the two of them? All right? In the time that Michael Jackson sat in the studio, he would have been the star. Everybody stopped work to come downstairs to take a picture or just to see Michael. The same courtesy, honor, and recognition was afforded to Mighty Sparrow, not in his hay years, but in his latter years. I know later on this morning, Daniel DeFintali is going to be on the program. Allow her to speak about local content in its purest form. She stood and worked in this studio with only Stereotex backdrops with Horace James, the original producer of Play of the Month. Once a month, there was a local production in this studio with 2 Ampex cameras. Ever heard the name Ampex? Ampex was known for the large reels that were on videotape and audio tape machines long ago. Today, we use that device. That's the camera. There's one of those in almost every home in Trinidad and Tobago, rich or poor, vagrant or politician. That's the eyes of our nation. But what are we capturing today? And as we're in World Television Day, what are we capturing? We want to capture the good of our country, the best of who we can be. Instead, we reach to the altar of Zuckerberg and we denigrate, procrastinate, criticize office holders, challenge the authority of even those who are here to protect and serve, question everything that's wrong with everyone else because nothing's wrong with us. We're fine. And in true Sparrow form, we like it so. So just to say, coming in today is no different to coming into this studio any other day. I've been doing this since I was 10 and a half years old. What keeps me grounded is that when I walked in here, I was neither a trained singer, a broadcaster, a trained actor. I was a little boy from Woodbrook who just liked to sing. And I walked on here, sang my song, and I won. But the best part and the game changer of walking into this cold, air-conditioned studio, always cold. The engineers told me they used to hang meat in here at night. That's why it was always cold. Anyway, the best experience was when I came to collect my prize the next week. Auntie Hazel handed me a large Bristol board. I didn't read what was on the board. She said, just sit below the camera, young man. Yeah, you're always respectful, right? Sit below the camera, young man, and I'll tell you when to move. And I was told to hold up this large Bristol board, and she stood right where you are, Jaron, right where you are, and she said, and the winning prize will be a trip for two to the magical kingdom of Walt Disney in Orlando, Florida. And then Jamaluddin Samad, our floor manager, said, right, Hazel, we're off. And she said, thank you, Wendell. I was a teleprompter for 25 seconds for Auntie Hazel on my second entrance into this building. If you told me then that I would go on to introduce heads of state of 36 parts of the world, 36 countries, including Barack Obama, on my home soil, if you told me then that I would have announced the winners of Calypso Monarch over several years, if you told me then that I would have the privilege of being part and parcel of Soca Monarch, part and parcel of visits of several stars to Trinidad and Tobago. And then if you told me then that somebody would say to you, you have an opportunity to serve, would you come back to CNMG? Because the likelihood is that it may not be able to last much longer because its revenue has fallen, its staff is demoralized, and the organization may be teetering at that point. Would you assess the situation and determine what's possible? I would have told you at 10 and a half, me, I'm from Woodbrook. I don't do that. Okay? But here we are today. Therefore, wherever you have an opportunity to serve,
Make a difference.
Make a difference. And World Television Day does that. Absolutely. Those in the UN who started off whenever they did and determined that when the press, note the words, when the press began broadcasting educational programs where many students, COVID, could benefit from its classes, the UN came forward and appreciated the significance of television and the myriad roles in bringing nations together.
So Wendell, when you point out that quote and you think of where TTT is now, today, and the fact that I think it still tries to capture the local content, still try to do what it can in getting the population together just in terms of its content. I watched TTT, I watched a program last week about Africa, and I remember just sitting down. Phenomenal. Like just sitting and be like, the story of Africa told by Africans, and I watched it from beginning to end. I mean, forgive me, Mr. Prime Minister, but I literally kind of put the press conference aside to watch it, and then I went back to the press conference.
There you go.
What do you think of the content now of television, and especially TTT? Is it where it needs to be?
Okay, so allow it. Allow the morphing to take place. Because when we started in this studio, 1962, and I'll be very careful, I was not born before TTT started. I'm very careful, right? But anyway, in 1962 and moving forward, first it was film. Holly Biturier shot news stories, culture stories for the newscast on film. Then they eventually got to 2-inch tape, that became 1-inch tape, that became U-matic, that then became Betacam, etc. But as you asked the question, this space had to do everything. There was no second studio. There was no news bullpen upstairs. It was this space. So Panorama was across there in that corner on the green screen. All right. Sorry, I'm pointing out of shot and it wouldn't make much relevance to the viewer. But this was where it all happened.
Yeah.
And I was calling some names just now so we could have a quiz, right? Joy of Craft, Lucia Farrell on a Monday. At Hope, followed by At Home with Sylvia Hunt, a cooking show on a Monday, followed by Panorama. So on this side of the set had to have all the craft and the paintings and this, and on that side was a kitchen.
Yeah.
Cameras just moved over. The only thing separating one program from the other was, this is TTT, Trinidad and Tobago Television, channels 2 and 13. That's it. The eyes of the nation, with something for everyone, etc., etc. So when we say things like see yourself or live for local, understand where your slogans would have come from. Your taglines were originally there. And therefore, you've got to allow new things to come in. Ayinka, I'm not sure if you were here when we did our first audition for looking for new talent screen test
Exactly
for CNMG.
where we met, actually.
Okay, so that's where we first met. Imagine the privilege of being able, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, to come into Television House, just like I would have done at age 10, and sit on a set, teleprompter rolls, and you now have to, what do you do? Pretend.
Read the news.
Dramatize. Hello, I'm Ayinka, and welcome to, and we'll be right back. Smile. Okay? Now, it's all false. I'm telling everybody in Trinidad and Tobago, television is a false medium from the standpoint of tons of makeup, lots of electronics, tons of lights, plenty Lysol, okay? Because I'm sitting in Natalie's chair that she was in a moment ago, but between the break, right? Spray.
Yeah.
And I can have my mask off because her proximity to me requires her to have her mask on. Plenty goes on to make a TV show.
Yeah.
It's not just, well, let me do it so now. It just doesn't happen that way. You guys know it. You can't fall asleep at 4 because you're thinking of this morning's rundown. Not the rundown, but this morning's.
Wow.
Yeah.
We come out swinging this morning. Tell me something, Wendell. We're almost at the end of the time, unfortunately. But I'm curious as to, how TV changed when we had the introduction of cable.
Right.
And the accessibility of cable. Because those shows talking about, when we look at the comparison, people always say, well, I want to see something that's looking more like this, not to see these big, flashy productions.
Yes, so 2 steps. One, your parents and your grandparents will always tell you that things can be used for good and not so good.
Yeah.
All right. The introduction of cable in Trinidad and Tobago at the time allowed you to see more international news, allowed you to see perhaps some MTV, perhaps some Carson Daly, etc. But it was really about keeping in step with what was happening across the globe. But when you move from 6 channels to 133 channels, and you place the remote in the hands of the citizenry, right, then choices begin to be made. And it's a reflection of who we are as a society now. When we had limited choice and less money, we were more of a society. Now we have all the choices in the world. We have the ability to make the right choices based on our upbringing, our history, and our culture. And we find ourselves in some real dark and difficult places with the poor persons of yesteryear having to come out to say, "Where all you doing?" I'll stop there. Your time is up.
We'll take the break now. Go ahead as you're done.
Well, as the part of the originator of the Now Morning Show, and by the way, it's Friday, you're supposed to be all standing up all of the time. Sitting down is not a good idea. With the theme rolling, in observance of World Television Day, from all of us here at TDT Limited, stay with us. More to come, much more, right after this.